Hey, Georgie!
Jerry, what the heck is this?
Kidney beans, George. They were on sale. Can't make my famous chili without the kidneys.
You can't do anything without kidneys.
Okay, Cryptic George. Where are you going with this?
I need a kidney, Jerry. I need a kidney.
You need a kidney?
Yes, Jerry. I need a kidney.
Well, you don't hear that every day. Laney!
What's up, boys?
Ah.
What's up with him?
George needs a kidney.
Get out!
Too bad there's not a kidney store you could just go to.
How do you get a kidney anyway? Is it like picking out a pair of shoes?
No, Elaine. It's not like picking out a pair of shoes.
No, Elaine, he needs a donor.
You need a donor.
Yes, Elaine, I need a donor.
Like a loner kidney.
George is getting upset. George is getting angry.
Like a loner donor.
Serenity now! Serenity now! Serenity now! We are having a gathering of good friends, canine cohorts, and family to celebrate the transplant that I will be having at the end of the week. We need to pick up the bagels and the cake for this celebration.
Since I'm a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic, and have been since I was a child, I'm already at a higher risk of kidney failure. Unfortunately, with kidney disease, it is a process, and there is no cure for it. There's no way of stopping it right now that we know of, but you can slow it down, and so that's what we've been doing.
I was lucky enough to get Barak as a patient, and Barak told me what he wanted from his doctor, and one of the things he said that was important to him was that his doctor had a good sense of humor. So I knew I was going to get along with him from day one. Barak's kidney disease is due to diabetes. Barak has type 1 diabetes, and diabetes is the #1 cause of kidney failure in the United States. A diabetic kidney disease is associated with a lot of cardiovascular disease, and there's a high incidence of stroke, myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, and congestive heart failure. So it's very important that we also manage these other risk factors so that patients don't suffer these complications. Now, when the kidneys start to fail, the options are transplantation, dialysis, or doing nothing. For most patients, doing nothing is not an option because they don't want to die from their kidney disease. If you're somebody who's young and otherwise in reasonable health, transplantation is definitely the way you want to go. You're going to live longer and you're going to live better with a kidney transplant than you will on dialysis. Now, fortunately, dialysis over the years has gotten better. The survival on dialysis has improved, and there's a lot of different types of dialysis now that were not available decades ago. But transplantation is still the better option. And in terms of the timing of the transplantation, it's better to get transplanted preemptively as opposed to getting transplanted after you start dialysis. The longer that you're on dialysis, the worse your outcomes are going to be with transplant, both from a survival standpoint and from a kidney survival standpoint.
Looks good.
Oh my gosh. It does. It has a kidney on it.
That's a kidney?
Yes.
Classic cakes, come back again.
During one of my standard blood tests, there was a small measurable anomaly in my creatinine levels. And my filtration rate went under 30%.
There's two ways that we monitor kidney function with the blood test. One is a blood test called creatinine. A normal creatinine level is around 1, and Barak's is right now 5. So when you start to see that creatinine go up, that's how you know the kidney disease is progressing. The other way of expressing that is something called the glomerular filtration rate, or GFR. That's the rate at which the kidney filters blood, and normal is around 100. Patients usually don't start developing symptoms till it gets closer to 10. So he's getting at that point. That's when we decided we better start moving, because we want to get him on the transplant list and find a potential donor for him before he gets to the point where he needs dialysis.
Transplant and dialysis are certainly not considered until you get below 20, but again, you're in that direction. So I started in my 100%, and it had gone down to 30. Once it goes below 30, it's not that long before it will probably get to 20. And once it goes below 20, that's when you start to think about transplant.
There's basically 5 different stages of chronic kidney disease, and they basically depend on what that GFR, that filtration rate is. If your filtration rate is above 90, that puts you at stage 1. And when you're at stage 1, because the GFR is normal, there has to be other factors to indicate that the patient has kidney disease. And then if the GFR is between 60 and 89, we would say that that patient has stage 2 chronic kidney disease. Stage 3 is a GFR that's 30 to 59. And then stage 4 is between 15 and 29. That's when you start planning for dialysis and transplantation, once you get to stage 4. And then stage 5 is when it's under 15. That's when you're getting close to the point where the patient either needs to be transplanted or get dialysis. And Barak's right now is, I believe, around 14. So once the GFR is less than 20, that's when we start the transplant process.
I am in end-stage kidney failure. So I applied for a transplant at Einstein Hospital, and that's when the hunt begins. So you get out there and you tell everybody who you can, and you ask everybody you know if they'll share your plea for a kidney. It's important to remember everything takes time. So you got to focus on that end result, that end focus, which is that your kidneys will eventually fail completely and you will need that kidney. It's not easy to ask for such a big altruistic favor. You have to learn how to bring it up in conversation with everybody and get people to talk about it and share your story and your plea. They do a lot of the work. We needed to put a webpage together. Well, I know that concept sounds very easy. Not much thought has to go into it. And when you're getting closer to kidney failure, end stage, you don't have the energy that you had before you got into these, stages of kidney failure. And so even simpler things that aren't necessarily complicated but take up time are much more exhausting. At the very beginning, I didn't have a kidney champion, and they told me, you should get a kidney champion. But I was like, who has time for that? I barely have time to even think about it. So initially, I was going to take on those responsibilities myself. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting over and above the exhaustion that I was suffering from the kidney failure. So the Kidney Champion started a web page with my dog Flurry. We were looking for a kidney donation from a live donor. So the Kidney Champion is such a key person to do a lot of the work, and a lot of the work takes a lot of time, and also just to be really your cheering section. Because there were, for me, there were some days where I was just like, I'm done. I'm done with this. This is a lot, and I don't see the hope in it, and it's complicated, and people are complicated, and life is complicated. My Kidney Champion played the position of listening to me without saying anything, really just listening and supporting me. So that person is such a key aspect of this battle, of this long process. But it's important to remember and be reminded that there's a kidney somewhere out there for you. It's just a matter of finding it. So Brittnay started originally to work for me in the Mechanicsburg office. Over time, Phil, who's our corporate office manager, was up there training.
I was first notified by the manager in another office that they had hired somebody. And at the time I was like, oh great, this is another person on board that I'm gonna have to train.
I was working at a tattoo shop down the street, and someone from the Mechanicsburg office at County House Research used to come in to get tattooed. I was jokingly one day like, is your job hiring? And she said, actually, yeah, it is. So she told me to come in, I did.
We just had some friendly conversation, as we started talking about common interests that we had with music and movies.
One thing led to another, and they fell in love. She, at that point, started working in our Philadelphia office.
That was, over 2.5 years ago. And it was definitely the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Working at County House totally changed my life, and I'm just, in a weird way, paying them back for it, so.
Happy kidney to you. Happy kidney to you. Happy kidney, dear Barak. Happy kidney to you. And many more. Just as
Almost alarmingly casually a couple of times, Barak had mentioned that he was entering stage 4. He was actively looking for a donor. Upon hearing that, we were all a bit taken back because, we had known about the issues, but that was when it was first real.
We had decided, Phil and I, back in July, we were going to go get tested to see if we were a blood type match, which is funny because Barak thought we left work early that day to go get married at the courthouse.
The old days, when people were going to get married, they did blood testing, which I understand they no longer do. I was very excited that they were potentially then getting married, but they were actually going to see who might be a match blood type-wise for me.
He was totally blown away that we had gone to even go get the blood test because, he's a humble man and, he would never ask anybody to do that for him.
So we figured it's probably a 1 in a billion shot that you're a match, but at least we could say that we tried.
We went and joked, oh, what if we're both a match? Are we gonna have to arm wrestle over who gets to be the one to donate?
I don't have very strong arms, so she probably would have won anyway, but the doctors made it very clear to us when we went in for the testing that they would make the call based off of, just who was the overall healthier person and the better candidate.
It was completely an absolutely selfless act on Brittnay and Phil's part, and Brittnay won.
So there are a couple things I'd like to say and share. I was asked not to introduce Miss Renee. So, Miss Renee, I know she has an official title with the transplant department at Einstein Hospital. It's easier for me to explain what she does, which is everything, and has been an incredible support to me and to Brittnay.
Oh, don't cry.
So, she has joined us today, and I really appreciate that very much.
It was emotional for me at that time to consider that somebody would just do this, and really in an unconditional sense. It really is a burden because it's just so much time. It's a long process, and each test is pass-fail. So you're making that decision over and over and over again.
It's thousands of people that need to hear your story, that can relate to your story. And with you sharing that story, sharing this journey with millions of other people, you could be the vehicle that helped change someone else's life. Be like Nike and just do it.
Share the spare.
Share the spare. That's it. Share the spare. I love that.
One of the first tests that they do, which I find really neat, is they do a cross match. They literally take my physical blood and they literally take her physical blood. They mix it in a vial, and a human being looks at it under a microscope to see if there's any reaction between the two bloods. If there's not, at that time, they then move on to test everything.
I had to go see a dermatologist, I had to see a gynecologist.
On 2 separate occasions, she's had to pee in a jug for 24 hours straight.
The best part was being able to tell Barak, hey, I'm not gonna be in the office on Wednesday. I'm gonna be working from home because I'm pretty sure you don't want me walking around the office with just a jug of my own pee.
She has had to do psychological evaluations. She's had to increase her endocrinologist visits.
MRI, CT scan, electrocardiogram, oh, and the stress test.
She's probably been averaging about, one appointment every week, maybe every other week for the past, 6 or 7 months to make sure that everything is on the up and up.
While most people maybe would have been like, this is a lot of testing, I was just stoked to make it through each level of testing without too many issues.
It really does give us a lot of confidence that if there was anything wrong and any type of complication that could possibly happen, they would have caught it, way earlier on in the process.
After her testing was completed, my testing was completed, they then put the two of us together, and that's where we are now. Flurry has actually been an incredibly valuable help to me and to my cardiologist and to my kidney doctor. I mean, they all ask about Flurry on a fairly, every time I'm in, they want to know how she's doing. And the main reason for that, aside from obviously the emotional stuff, it's also the physical stuff. So one of the big challenges when you're winding down with kidney failure is the exhaustion. So you're tired, you want a nap, but it's also important to keep moving. Just get up and get out. Flurry helps me do that. Same with the cardiologist. I have a heart condition and I have some blockages. He said, you don't need to start out a workout program. You need to be walking every day. So when they say, what's your exercise like? And I say, 3 times a day, 30 minutes a time, the dog walks me. And that's really important when you're in those end stages when it's really hard, even just to go out for a walk. It was for me difficult to just go out for a walk. So my kidney doctor, my heart doctor, they all ask about Flurry whenever I'm there. See how she's doing, make sure she's still walking me on a regular basis.
What's the night before? So I've been thinking about people that are, no longer with us, who've had a particular influence on me in my life. I've taken point in retelling those stories and those experiences to younger people in my life now and don't have firsthand knowledge of these folks, who did something in my life, did something good in my life. There are lots of people I miss. And I miss their, what they would have been doing or saying to me now. And of course, I'm lucky to have lots of new people in my life saying and doing some of those things. That's been something that I've been uniquely experiencing a few weeks up to this surgery.
Where I'm going to be after tomorrow, it's going to be a new life. I hope that a new life will be a better life, but at the very least, it will be a new life to get used to and to work with and to have. I mean, the alternative is no life, and that, not as cheery. Just wanted to feel how heavy my will is.
Oh, really?
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to bring a will with you?
Yeah,
Transplant?
my healthcare proxy documentation, my will, my living will, my DNR, all my legal documentation.
It's a sunny way to start.
By the time you read it, hopefully everybody that's in it will still be alive. Sending you hugs, even though I know you don't want them.
It's like a living nightmare for you.
I've known Barak since I believe 83 or 84. We went to camp together. I'm the medical proxy. So if there are complications, if there are certain specific issues, they would talk to me. We're really hoping not to have any conversations in that respect. But here just in case, yeah, knock on really cheap plastic.
How are you feeling?
Sleepy.
Sleepy?
Super sleepy.
You're gonna get to go to sleep.
I know, I
pretty
can't
soon.
wait. I'm just gonna be hitting that morphine and just taking the longest 4-day nap of my life.
Okay, so you can have a seat, take out insurance cards and ID. We'll call you back for registration in just one moment.
Don't you think that B needs to, that maybe you guys together need to name the kidney? Have we thought about names for this?
What do you want to name it?
What are you naming my kidney?
Frank?
Frank?
Thank you. Do you know what that means to me? That's what my tumor was named. There we go.
Literally every hypothetical name she gives something is Francis.
Yeah. See, we're already on the shared kidney wavelength, and it's not even in you yet.
They took her back to prep her for surgery, which was a little tougher to watch than I expected. I got goosebumps, I'm not gonna lie. It was, you know, she's doing something awesome that I don't think a lot of people would be able to do. So I think that's amazing.
Good luck, B.
Thanks.
Can you suggest a good wine that pairs with kidney?
Actually, with kidney, absolutely. Definitely go with a Cab Franc. I would use something from Chenin or the Samoa Champagny.
So Barak's been asking various people to try and sneak his cell phone into a plastic bag for him so that he can still use it while he's in the ICU. We tried to explain to him that it doesn't really work that way, but, you know, no points off for tenacity, I guess.
How's it going?
How you feeling, champ?
Tired. I'm feeling tired.
Yeah. We thought you might have fallen asleep. Did you
doze?
No, they woke me up for you guys to come in.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
They wanted to make sure.
I think both Francie and I concur that we would like you to have fun.
If Julia were here.
Julia, more than anyone,
Yeah, no.
has said that over and over again.
Thank you for driving us.
Of course, I'll see you in a few hours. It's
Yeah.
all going to go great.
Yeah, I'm living
We're going to be good.
I'm not
Kidney
worried.
function, here you come.
So the kidney is out. It has been transferred. They are starting now to basically put Britt back together, close her up, and she's great. She's doing good.
At this point in time, the kidney is being put into Barak. So that's really pretty exciting and cool, and we're really, really thrilled that everything has gone well so far in with the donor, and she's now in post-op, doing phenomenally well.
It's hilarious that Brittnay requested a picture of her kidney. Classic. Hilarious.
Did they do it?
And they did it. I texted my husband. I let him know that we have a confirmed photo of the kidney, and he's like, that's going to make one heck of a Christmas card.
I gotta say, and I haven't said this to many people in my life, your urine looks good.
Yeah,
It's
Francie was in
looking
here,
good.
she was holding it, and she was like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, yeah. My big sister is proud of my pee.
So surgery itself, I heard it went pretty well. I was a little messed up on pain pills, well, anesthesia actually, but I stupidly did not take any pain pills afterwards. They asked me and I was like, no, I feel great. So the nurse that I had, very lovely lady, was like, oh, yeah, you'll change your mind. Tomorrow's probably going to be way worse. So she was correct. Saturday was awful. Getting out of bed was easily the hardest, most painful part of the process. So physical therapy was fine. Getting up and walking around, totally not that big of a deal. But getting out of bed and into the chair the first time was the only thing that almost made me cry. And I am a total crier, so the fact that I haven't cried was weird, but it was definitely the one part that almost made me do it. But 10 out of 10 would recommend. I am just very glad I only had one organ to give, because it is a very hard process the first day. It's rough going. Even though they tell you it's rough going, you're like, no, it'll be fine. You will be fine, but not before you're decidedly not fine for like a solid 24 hours. So now I'm just really happy that B is doing well with 2 shitty kidneys and 1 really great working kidney. He's like a hoarder at this point, an organ hoarder.
Well, he has space for 3 more, so.
Oh my God, he better not need 3 more.
I really do feel better. I couldn't imagine it, to be honest with you. I couldn't imagine feeling this way, because I had felt that way for so long that I just got used to it.
Right.
I'll tell you what I don't feel. I don't feel exhausted the way I used to, where my body was exhausted on a pretty constant, consistent basis. I don't feel that. Even though I'm very tired, I actually feel like I have energy, which I haven't felt that for a long time, like years. I know Dr. Fuho, warned me of that. He's like, you may have energy afterward. But yeah, it's really significant now that I obsess about it.
One year, which has been the longest, shortest period of time that I can, remember in life. I mean, it literally, as I was seeing Brittnay and Phil tonight, it felt like this just happened last week. For the first time in a long time, I felt fine, and it felt incredible to feel fine.
I was in the hospital for 5 days, and on Friday morning, ass early, and then out Tuesday afternoon. They had me up and walking the same day or the next day. I got stuck in a fucking chair, but I'm like on the verge of tears. Finally get out to go to the bathroom, and they replaced the recliner, thank God.
After the new kidney went in, my diabetes shaped up incredibly and dramatically in a way that it has never done before. It was really pretty immediate, right after surgery.
It was good to be home, super good to be home, but just the simple act of showering just totally exhausted me. It was also hard going to those follow-up appointments just because, the act of showering and getting ready, not that labor intensive, but then between that, the 40-minute car ride there, then waiting in the waiting room, it was so exhausting, and I was like, thank God I only have to do this twice a week or once a week. It got gradually better. After 6 weeks, I would say I was pretty much almost fully recovered, maybe a little bit of tightness in my stomach still. They asked me if my appetite was good, and I was like, it's not super, I've just been eating lean cuisines, and my nephrologist scolded me, and she was like, you need to eat real food, and I was like, okay. So then I was like, can you get me 5 guys?
What are some of the things that you had to be mindful of now, food-wise?
I simply can't have delivered food anymore at all. So the concern with somebody who has received any organ for that matter is their immune system is decreased pretty significantly. So the questions you can't answer is, so how long has it been sitting since it was cooked? So if you cook something on a grill and you put it into a box to deliver, how long has it been off the grill? Has it been 10 minutes? Has it been an hour? So if I get food poisoning, Any poisoning of that sort, yes, could be fatal. So one of the challenges that I had was that I really don't know how to cook, and I didn't cook. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't like I struggled. I just didn't do it. So I consulted a dietitian to really not just to evaluate what I was eating and how I was eating.
I have all of my storage times, all of my proper baking ingredient conversion table, as well as my safe internal cooking temperatures. Barak has been so open and welcoming to this whole process, because for somebody to just show up at your house and come and infiltrate your kitchen, it can be a very vulnerable experience. We are really focusing for Barak not only on heart healthy, blood sugar friendly, or diabetes friendly, but also post-kidney transplant friendly recipes.
Even just cooking chicken in a pan, for me, who basically had been cooking chicken in the toaster oven until the skin was burned, right? That's how I knew it was cooked enough. You know, my chicken was dry. I always ate it with a lot of ketchup. So she showed me how to cook it to a safe temperature and still have some moisture to it.
We're really focusing especially on food safety, because that is something that it's important for the whole population, but it is especially important for patients who have a compromised immune system in any way, shape, or form.
Learning not just like a recipe, but literally, you know, how do you heat the pan? What kind of herbs do you use? So really, I'm at sort of the lowest level of learning how to cook, learning how to make things, above fast food. After transplant, I was doing great. No complications with the transplant. The kidney from the get-go was doing very well. July 4th week, I started having some issues, which were, in retrospect now, were signs of a stroke.
Diabetic kidney disease is associated with a lot of cardiovascular disease, and there's a high incidence of stroke, myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, and congestive heart failure.
There were symptoms which at the immediate time I didn't realize. And this is something that I've now learned after transplant, you can't dismiss anything. As hard as I concentrated, I couldn't type correctly. Things just weren't, my coordination, my mental coordination was off. It was also becoming difficult to speak. Then there was a second incident that, similar to the first. Again, it wasn't like it is in the movies or on TV, where somebody has this dramatic, and yells out and falls. It wasn't like that. After the stroke, I really needed some help.
I don't want this relaxed.
Okay.
Perfect. How about that?
I like to call myself a health motivator, life coach, trainer. I compete lifting internationally. I have world records in various federations. I have American records. I have state records. It keeps me focused. What I saw immediately not happening was a stretch in the calf and the Achilles that if you don't do, there's the domino effect of how many other muscle groups now will probably get tight to a point where you have a difficulty in moving yourself.
Howard particularly specializes in people who have challenges for one reason or another. Because the physical therapy that I was getting at the rehab center was great. I'm certainly not being critical of that. It wasn't every day. It was for 45 minutes once a week, really. And they couldn't quite cater to my specific needs. I wanted and needed something more that just wasn't out there for me. He offers really what I would say is alternative training, because he's really involved with you as an individual. He doesn't have a one program fits all. He fits everybody with a program.
So you have all this weakness and stiffness going on the left side because that was the side that was affected by the event, and now we're trying to get that side stronger. But the other thing that you had to think about was the right side was doing more than it should have. The right side was carrying the burden. So now the right side I knew would be extremely tight, and we have to get the strong side stretched out and doing just what it needs to do for itself.
He's very good at saying, okay, let's do 10 of these, reminding me what it's doing and why I'm doing it.
He did it today better than he's ever done it. So again, it just confirms that things are getting stronger, things are getting better. I think he surprised himself a little bit of what he actually was able to do.
He reminds me, remember how challenging it was for you to stand up? And I think to myself, oh my God, yes, I do remember that. And even if it takes me a little longer, or I have to rest several times in order to get it done, I feel challenged and feel good. I've literally been given a new lease, at least for the next 12 to 15 years, which is the general average, which is going up, by the way, of a success for a successful kidney transplant.
We did the National Kidney Foundation Kidney Walk back in October. I'm gonna sign up for the Transplant Games this summer, so it's kind of like Olympics, but for people that have been cut open and had new organs placed in them or old organs taken out. So it's been a super cool experience, and I feel like, it's definitely enriched my life in a weird way I wasn't expecting just through the kidney community.
I certainly had a huge network of support from family, from friends, which is so necessary through all of this.
I have zero regrets from donating. It was a great thing. And it feels so weird, like it never even happened. That's how back to normal everything is and how everything felt. Honestly, the hardest part was people saying nice things to me about me. That was the hardest part, because I don't take compliments well at all. People saying things, I'm like, haha, okay, thank you.
What I found important for myself and for my support group was to always be looking to the success, when you get a kidney. It's hard to not look at what's happening right that minute, which is not getting a kidney. It's another day that you haven't gotten a kidney. But when you can, try and look on the flip side of that and say, I'm one day closer to getting a kidney. It's hard, and I realize it sounds a little hokey, and it is. It's absolutely a little hokey. But when I was in that minute, it was helpful.
So I would say, if you're considering donating a kidney, educate yourself. I think people just don't know how normal life can go back to being for you if you donate a kidney. I think people are really concerned that it's gonna change their life. They're not gonna be able to do certain things, and it's gonna change your life, but in a great way. If I can do it, anyone can do it, as long as you are medically cleared to do so.
And I said to Brittnay, oh, and by the way, thank you very much. She said, for what? And I said, for the kidney. And she's like, you don't have to thank me for that.
I am excited.
Big shout out to Philly. Yeah. Barak is the coolest guy. I'm trying to tell you, type 1 diabetic, suffer from kidney failure, owns County House Research Inc. Here's the deal, he just needed a donor. Here comes Brittnay and Phil. Brittnay was a match and there was no delay. Barak got emotional when she said she would donate. Was a year-long process and so many tests. January 25th when the surgery began, Barak laid back and lover of the McRib, and Brittnay tatted up, big heart, super chill, it's miraculous. Everything happened to work out. A sacrifice that is priceless, no doubt. Now the transplant scars like a new tag. Here's to the friendship and future, no looking back. The greatest gift that anyone could ever want. A new life you got, from Brittnay to Barak. Yeah, let's go.